Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Over the last couple of years, we've heard literally endless hype about artificial intelligence, right? How it's going to eliminate expenses, streamline business, the whole shebang. But actually, behind closed doors, corporate finance departments are in a state of absolute panic. Today we're going to examine exactly how AI became way more expensive than the very human workers it was supposed to replace.
$120,000. Let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering number of human workers who have been handed pink slips just since 2023. We're talking across all sectors here, from giant tech companies like Amazon and Google all the way to fast food chains. And it was all done under this massive corporate banner of AI efficiency. The narrative they sold us was that these jobs were just obsolete now, that a single AI model could instantly replace hundreds of full-time employees.
But we really have to ask ourselves a serious question here. What if those AI savings were a total illusion? I mean, how does a technology that was advertised as virtually free to operate suddenly cause entire annual tech budgets to just evaporate in a matter of weeks? Because believe it or not, that is exactly what's happening right now in Silicon Valley and beyond. Companies are literally being forced to choose between paying for their software or paying for their people. And spoiler alert, the math is definitely not shaking out the way the executives promised.
So here's how we're going to map out this massive economic shift today. We'll start with the great AI promise. Then we'll move into the token maxing trap and the hallucination tax. After that, we'll look at the cracks in the infrastructure, unpack the balance sheet illusion, and finally we'll end on an incredibly empowering note, the return of the human. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Great AI Promise. The 90% expense cut.
Let's look back at that crazy post-2022 frenzy. Right after ChatGPT launched and hit 100 million users in record time, executives everywhere basically mandated AI adoption across the board. Tech giants were selling corporate America on this dream of endless profit. The pitch was simple, just cut expenses by 90% and let the algorithm do the heavy lifting. Sounds great, right? Well, the harsh reality hit fast. Behind those closed corporate doors, AI bills were spiraling completely out of control, making these advanced models wildly expensive to actually run.
Which brings us to Section 2, the token maxing trap, gamifying corporate costs.
Okay, so this reveals a massive structural flaw in how AI was rolled out internally, and it's largely driven by one simple pricing mechanism. AI companies charge by the token. Now, developers and employees were practically ordered to consume as many tokens as humanly possible. It honestly became a status symbol. Silicon Valley engineers were literally being scored on how many AI tokens they used, which created this totally absurd culture of what's called token maxing. Just imagine a scenario where a single developer uses, say, $200 worth of tokens every single week. Now scale that up across a major enterprise with 90,000 employees. You are suddenly looking at a $900 million annual bill just for basic everyday prompts. Crazy, right? To really put this astronomical waste into perspective, according to reports, Meta consumed an estimated 60 trillion tokens in a single month. 60 trillion. Based on blended pricing, that one single month racked up an estimated $900 million bill. I mean, think about that. Nearly $1 billion in just 30 days, all because employees are basically gamifying their token usage just to appear more productive on a leaderboard.
It's honestly like driving a Ferrari just to go down the street to pick up some groceries. Using these highly advanced AI agents like Claude Code for super basic daily administrative tasks became the corporate equivalent of exactly that. Corporations are burning through this incredibly expensive computational power for the simplest possible outputs, which is, of course, entirely destroying any potential cost savings they were hoping for.
Moving on to Section 3. The hallucination tax. Paying for mistakes.
So here's the kicker. Even when companies happily paid these massive token bills, the actual work produced was incredibly flawed. It completely shattered that whole perfect automation narrative. Get this, up to 45% of AI-generated responses contain critical errors. Financial firm Klarna famously bragged that their AI replaced 700 human agents. But then, they realized the AI was frustrating users so badly, they literally had to rehire human staff just to fix the mess. At McDonald's, they had to rip AI out of 100 drive-thru locations because it was constantly messing up people's orders. So instead of eliminating workers, companies found that their remaining human staff had to spend all day babysitting the algorithm and fixing its mistakes. We like to call this the hallucination tax.
And when you break down the AI versus human return on investment, well, the truth just becomes undeniable.
While AI currently wins on cost for coding, and it's basically a dead tie for data entry, take a look at call centers and customer support. Humans actually win. Yeah, for real. Because once you factor in the $12 million initial setup costs for these advanced AI programs, and then you tack on the never-ending token fees, plus the human oversight required to fix all those errors we just talked about, employing an actual person is literally cheaper.
Let's jump to Section 4, cracks in the infrastructure, hitting the physical wall.
Because beyond the software failures and the blown budgets, this AI bubble is now slamming face first into very real physical limitations. Over half of the AI data center construction plan in the US for 2026 has been delayed or flat out canceled. We are seeing severe grid strain across the country, and the prices for basic electrical transformers, they've doubled in just 4 years, which is partly due to tariff uncertainties on components coming from overseas. But the environmental cost? Wow, it is staggering. Data centers in Virginia alone consume 2 billion gallons of water in 2023 that is heavily depleting and, in some cases, even contaminating local resident water sources. Because of these physical and financial walls, major players like Oracle and OpenAI are quietly just canceling their site expansions.
There's also a massive disconnect happening right now at the hardware level. While NVIDIA's CEO claimed to be distributing around 10 gigawatts worth of GPUs, Goldman Sachs actually estimates there are only 7.7 gigawatts of operating data center capacity in the entire world. So there's this glaring discrepancy between the demand that hardware giants are promising Wall Street and the actual physical reality of what our data centers can actually handle.
Section 5, the balance sheet illusion, Wall Street smokescreen.
Okay, so if AI isn't saving money and it's full of errors, what is the real reason behind all these mass corporate layoffs? Well, the vast majority of AI initiatives are actually just hemorrhaging money. Only 5% of generative AI projects implemented in companies manage to positively impact revenue. 5%! That means 95% are producing daily multi-million-dollar losses. Even the major AI developers themselves are operating at massive losses, bleeding billions of dollars every single quarter.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that those AI-related job cuts we keep hearing about on the news, they were mostly just a PR narrative. Corporations use the fear and the hype around AI as a really convenient cover to tighten their belts, trim middle management, and basically correct their own overhiring from the past few years. They knew for a fact that Wall Street investors would immediately boost the stock price of literally any company that added the letters A and I to their press releases. It was essentially an illusion to manipulate the market while they executed routine cost-cutting.
Which leads us to our final section, Section 6, Return of the Human, the Cost-Effective Operator.
This brings us to the most empowering reality of this whole situation, the inevitable comeback of the human worker. Research clearly shows that current AI technology can only handle a small fraction, about 24% of our daily office tasks. The remaining 76% still absolutely require human skills. We're talking things like negotiation, interpretation, complex coordination. Plus, studies show that firing a specialized worker and then having to rehire and train someone new costs a business up to 40% of that employee's annual salary. Businesses are finally waking up from the AI hype and realizing that human talent isn't just necessary, it's financially indispensable.
We are honestly experiencing a massive turning point right now. Think about this. There was a real internal memo from a Microsoft executive literally ordering their engineers to stop using Anthropic's AI coding tools. When a multi-trillion-dollar tech titan actually bans its own employees from using AI because the token costs are just too damn high, yeah, you know for sure the era of cheap AI is officially over.
So the real financial opportunity right now? It's not fighting the algorithm, and it's definitely not panicking about job displacement. The opportunity is stepping in to manage this corporate chaos. First, stop trying to compete with basic automated outputs. Instead, position yourself as an AI cost auditor. Be the person who can look at a company's blown technology budget and eliminate all that wasted token maxing we talked about. Or become a workflow integrator, someone who manages the systems and fixes the very expensive hallucinations that AI inevitably produces.
Knowing that businesses have completely blown through their annual budgets in weeks, and knowing they are desperately searching for human experts to step in and fix their expensive AI mistakes, what steps will you take today to make yourself the most valuable person in the room? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you in the next one.